Hey guys, welcome to my 2026 Scholar Post-Nerf PvP guide. This guide will go fully in depth on Scholar fundamentals and ideology for playing the class. I've made sure to timestamp everything so it's better organized for your viewing pleasure. Please enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, so if you're wanting to play Scholar, let's make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Scholar is what we define as a disruptor tank. The role that a disruptor tank fills is creating space for your ball to advance by putting large amounts of damage, CCs, or debuffs within the enemy ball. Scholar herself is more so tuned towards the damage and debuff part of my previous statement. Her tankiness is partially her being a stat stick and partially her ability to leap into the air with iframes, causing enemy players to lose track of her in the heat of battle. Now, there are two ways to play Scholar. Either you engage with your ball and abuse your massive AoEs to secure kills and debuff survivors, making their regroups weaker, or you can play her to deny the space behind the enemy ball to prevent them from retreating and regrouping. The more effective of the two is the latter, with the caveat being that it is an exponentially more difficult playstyle and should be reserved for players that are experienced with Scholar. That being said, Scholar, in my opinion, is in a good spot for most forms of content and overall is a good pick in our current game state. Moving into the class options part of the video, I want to make it clear this portion of the video is my opinion and these are the choices I have made in my kit to benefit my playstyle. I will justify why I do these things as we proceed. First things first, here are my add-ons. I will go over these more in depth in the different forms of content section because organizationally, I think it makes more sense that way. I just wanted to include it here for the players that just want quick access to my skill choices. That being said, if you don't want to run Core Hammer Smash, please move the add-ons off of that skill and onto Core Infinite Power. Now then, let's talk about our core skills. Currently, we have 4 justifiable core options, the first and my favorite being Core Hammer Smash. I've tuned my add-ons and playstyle off of this skill. It is a FG knockdown DR shred that can be quick cancelled with certain skills. This skill requires finesse to use, but when used correctly allows for high damage output. Next is Core Infinite Power. This core is pretty good, but usually is used greedily. That's because the best way to use it is on a group of people that are already CC'd, and doing so would CC cap them with a bound. So it's not very optimal, but I understand why some people like it. It does a lot of damage, it's SA, and it re-CCs people. Moving into the next skill, we have Core Hammer Spin. What this core does is it gives Hammer Spin knockback on 4 of the 6 hits. On paper, this core is insane. In all actuality, I hate this core. I never personally get any value out of the spin, and it has gotten me killed more times than I can count with all 20 of my fingers and toes. Its purpose is to give you a multi-tick CC that allows for you to regen stamina safely without the possibility of being grabbed. It also allows you to peel for allies and disrupt groups of people. I, however, get grabbed out of the skill all the time. That being said, if you are new on Scholar, I don't think it's a bad core to use, as you will be jumping into groups of people, debuffing them, and then spinning on them to try and CC the ones that you didn't CC with the jump. This core is pretty solid and has the lowest barrier to entry, so I do recommend new players use it. I think, however, this core is being flushed out because they buff 10% BSR hammer spin damage, and you don't get core CCs on your BSR skills. So that's something to keep in mind as you progress on the class. Last but not least, we have Core One Giant Leap. This core is fantastic, but it's only good in Node War in my opinion. What it does is when you Shift Q leap in, it applies a bound CC to the people that you land on. I used to use this core when I was more of an Engager Scholar, but nowadays I don't use it much anymore as its AoE isn't very big, and typically I prefer the KD and wider radius of the spacebar CC. Alright, that's it for the cores that I think that you should run. I'll kind of explain why we don't typically run the last one. Core Hammerfall, in my opinion, doesn't get used in most fights enough to justify running a core on it. It is a KD, but the actual hit for the KD comes out pretty slow, so I just don't think it gets used enough to justify running it, and in my opinion, the other cores are better. Alright, here's what I run for my Rebaams. Let's go into the first one. I like the extra quick movement that you get from Gravity Rush. It's also a low cooldown, but its alternative Gravity Crush isn't bad either. It's an FG skill that does quite a bit of damage, but it has a 10-second cooldown. For the second Rebaam, I like Golden Path because for every person you hit with it, it heals you for 400 HP. Plus, you can cast a fully charged Shift Rmb right after. Alternatively, Golden Barrier is pretty bad and it doesn't do much damage. For the last Rebaam, both are pretty solid, but honestly, Golden Boon is kind of insane. When activated, it cleans all movement and attack speed debuffs on you and prevents you from getting new ones for 30 seconds. I like it because I'll be in the back of an enemy ball fighting, and then we'll go to disengage from the fight. I can pop this, cleanse all the slows that I have on me, and then immediately jump straight into their regroup, usually netting me a couple kills. The other skill, Gravity Distortion, is a slow, but it has a strange inner circle, outer circle mechanic that requires you to precisely position yourself to use it optimally, so I don't think it's justifiable. Moving now onto the hotbar and UI section of the video. I have 4 skills on my hotbar and 5 skills on my CDs. For the hotbar, first we have our E-buff, second our Rebaam cleanse, third is Gravity Press, and lastly is a movement skill called Repulsion. We keybind Repulsion because we typically have to use another skill to get into it, but it's good to use by itself sometimes as it moves you up. As for our UI, I am pretty familiar with my cooldowns, so I only track the longer pivotal ones. But I highly recommend you guys try to track everything early on, especially your movement. I know it's not efficient for me to do it the way that I do, however, I struggle with tunnel vision at times, and reducing the clutter on my screen helps immensely. The skills that I do track are from left to right here, first being Home Run. This one right here is my Magnus skill. Down here below my BSR is my Grab. Next is Potential Energy, and last is my Spin. Moving into the gear build part of the video now. We're going to start out with the capped gear build because that's the content that most people consume nowadays. Up first is our add-ons. We have Home Run with 20 evasion and 5% critical hit damage on it. A lot of people have told me to run plus 20 accuracy on Home Run, but honestly, Home Run is typically the only skill that misses in capped content. And if I'm running accuracy on it, I'm only going to get the benefit of the accuracy on the second hit, and the skill only hits twice. So the uptime on it is not justifiable over the 25 seconds of evasion that you get, because that 20 evasion bypasses the cap. Up next, Potential Energy. This skill is one of the best neutral debuffs in the game, giving you minus 10% attack and casting speed for 5 seconds, and then with our add-ons, having minus 20 DR and minus 20 evasion for 10 seconds. Typically, this skill is thrown immediately after you jump into a group of people, because it's going to heavily debuff everybody that you hit, regardless of if you CC them or not. Up next, we have add-ons on Core Fusion. The add-ons we have are down attack and critical hit damage. This skill is used a lot to cancel many moves in the kit. It's also part of your pre-buff combo, but its CD is 4 seconds. So we basically spam it off cooldown. It's also used primarily before we use the 10% BSR spin. So that way you get the down and critical hit damage on the people that are on the floor. Moving on to Hammer Smash. This skill is our Shift Rmb and we run our core on it. I like minus 20 DR and plus 5% down attack damage on it for a whopping minus 45 DR total and plus 5% down attack damage on anybody that's on the floor. The skill causes you to do a ton of damage to people that you have CC'd, and if used correctly, it's going to net you a lot of kills. Moving on to One Giant Leap. On this skill, we are running plus 20 DR and plus 10% attack and casting speed. The reason that we're running add-ons on One Giant Leap is because the add-ons for One Giant Leap also apply when you hit people with spacebar. So if you're not running add-ons on One Giant Leap, you're essentially not running add-ons on 2 skills. Last but not least, we are running minus 20 DR and 100 bleed damage on our Magnus skill. The reason that we run the bleed damage on this skill is because whenever you debuff somebody with the Alchemic Circle from the Magnus skill and you hit them with the bleed part, their HP pot effectiveness is reduced by 33%, and any heals that they receive from allies are reduced by 20%. So this is just a attrition based add-on that is super beneficial for prolonged fights. Moving now into the actual gear build. For our crystals, we are running a pretty standard setup for capped. Good amounts of stamina, as Scholar needs the extra stamina. Typically, you can deslot one of the HP recovery crystals for a Jin max HP crystal if you do not meet the HP caps. And then down at the bottom, I'm running 4 Black Spirit Rage bond crystals with BSR max increase artifacts to get the self-obtainable 200% BSR absorb. In my artifacts, I'm running 4 slot Amplified Frenzies for the 4% all special attack extra damage. This is best in slot for Scholar. Moving into our actual items that we use for capped content. I run a food rotation, number 1 being Jumbo King Hamburg, number 2 being Special Driganese, number 3 Special Odalita, and number 4 Special Camo. You get all the same exact benefits that you get from an exquisite cron meal from this food rotation, except you're getting an additional 5% down attack extra damage over the exquisite cron meal, which is super important on Scholar because most of the people that you are damaging are on the floor. And then typically I'm running a Human Drought and a Tenacity because I don't reach HP caps. With this build, I highly recommend that if you are a newer player or don't have much gear, that you slot Dekia artifacts with the Amplified Frenzies so you can reach HP caps. For even with the armor that I have, I am 300 HP under the caps with this build. It's fine because I usually get shy buffs every push. But once I get these armors up to Sept, I believe, I won't have an issue anymore. Also, we need to move into the Reforged Stones. I'm running the same exact Reforged Stones on all 3 weapons. 5% critical hit, 2% back attack, 2% down attack, 1% critical hit extra damage, and 1.5% BSR recovery. Up next for our gear build, we have uncapped content. All of our add-ons are exactly the same because these are probably the most optimal add-ons for my playstyle. Except Home Run, we are running that extra 20 accuracy. As in Uncapped, most people are running Evasion late game, and we do benefit from the extra accuracy on the other skills this way. As for the build itself, crystals, we're running a pretty mid-ground between damage and tankiness. Scholar has a lot of iframes, so she doesn't need to run any DR skittles to be effective in Node War. As for the AP crystals down at the bottom there, you can slot up to 2 accuracy crystals for whoever you're fighting. 1 if you're running against some mid evasion, 2 if you're running against late game evasion. As for our artifact, we are running 2 Dekia Herald artifacts, all DR, with 4 slot Iron Wall for the extra tankiness. For our Reforged Stones, we're, instead of the back attack and down attack, we are running DR and AP for the extra tankiness and raw damage that you get out of it. It's the same for all 3 weapons. And then for our consumables, we're running Exquisite. Then for our Droughts and Perfumes, same thing, Human and Tenacity. Alright guys, let's move into the full skill breakdown part of the video. I want to go ahead and go over all the skills in totality here, so that you understand what to use when, kind of have a deeper understanding of the skills in total. Now, I think the best way to do this is go over the passive first, because it's widely applicable to all of the skills. And then from there, I'm going to explain all of our main skills and what main skills flow into the flow skills in the Awakening tree. Scholar is a true Ascension class. So what that means is she has skills in the Awakening tree called flow skills that you have to throw main skills to get into. You can't hotkey these. So she has to ascend from the main weapon to her sledgehammer to use these skills. Now that being said, let's go over the passive first. Anti-gravity. One of the strongest passives in the game currently. Got nerfed recently. We'll kind of break it down fully. The first part of it is that any of the main skills that you use give you a jump height boost whenever you use them. And the people that are also hit by the skills also get that jump height boost. It's just like anywhere in the circle get that jump height boost. Not super applicable to most situations. It does assist you with the extra. If you have the jump height boost, it just gives you the free extra damage that you would get from the extra jump height skills that benefit you with extra damage. Certain skills, the farther you fall, the more damage they do. It maxes that out for free, so we don't ever actually need to worry about how far we're falling to get the damage on those skills. That being said, moving into the stronger part of the actual passive, all the sledgehammer skills, if they leave an alchemic circle on the ground, are going to give you and allies a buff and enemies a debuff if they are within the circle. Now for yourself, it gives you defense nullifying damage plus 30 for 10 seconds on critical hits. What this means is while the buff is active, if you hit somebody with a skill, it will do true damage to them, regardless of their DR or DRR. So that being said, let's say, for example, home run, right? If you have the buff up, home run is going to hit twice. It's going to do 60 extra damage to the enemies that you hit of true damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but whenever you move into skills like BSR spin is 8 hits. So that's 240 extra damage on your BSR spin if you hit all the hits on that person. So it starts to add up quite a bit on some of these skills. So it's super strong. You want to make sure that you maintain it. Don't worry, it's not hard to maintain. It's part of our pre-buff combo that I'll go into later. You just have it every time that you engage. What it does to your allies is the same thing, but they only get a 5 defense nullifying damage buff for 10 seconds. Not super impactful, but it's good to give it to your allies so that way they have it. Now, the other really, really important part of this skill is the all recovery effects minus 20% that you give to your enemies. I kind of went into this a little bit in the add-on part of the video, but effectively every incoming heal that an enemy has will be reduced by 20% overall. Healing pots, HP recovery crystals, heals from Valks, Corsairs, mages, you name it, minus 20% to it. Now what this does in open world, if you include a bleed add-on to these skills that leave this circle on the ground, you're effectively going to reduce their HP pot heal by, I believe it's 33% for 10 seconds. And then that bleed's still going to tick afterwards. But while they have this effect on them, their healing, their self-healing is reduced by 33% overall. In AOS, I believe it's roughly a 52% decrease with the bleed because the pots are smaller, technically. And in Node War, if you're applying this to a group of people and they try to regroup, their heals aren't going to be as effective on that group of people. So this passive is very important to try and apply it to as many people as possible while you're fighting. There's a lot of the time where I will engage with my Magnus skill just so I can debuff them. This is why I run -DR and bleed on it. Because if every person that I'm hitting is effectively weaker, like crippled essentially in the fight. There's a reason people call it the cancel debuff. So let's go ahead and move on now off of the passive. Now we understand that. Keep in mind this is applied every time you see an alchemic circle hit the ground with all of your sledgehammer skills. So moving into the first one, auto attack, pretty self-explanatory. Nobody really uses it. Here we have Hammer Strike. This skill is good for grinding because it gives you access to Golden Pillar. This is Rmb. I believe it's completely unprotected, so don't even really worry about it in PvP. PvE, it's really good to use. Me personally, I don't PvE on the characters I PvP on, so I can't really help you much on the PvE aspect of Scholar. I just don't want to formulate bad habits by grinding on the character that I PvP on. I'm not saying don't grind on Scholar if you want to PvP on her, because I think a lot of people really enjoy the class that they play. Perfectly fine, just a personal choice. Please, if you enjoy Scholar, grind on Scholar. Moving into the next skill, we have Hammer Down. Really solid movement skill. SA, and it flows into this skill right here called Golden Thorns, which is also SA. We'll get, whenever I get more into the movement part of the video, I'll kind of go over why this skill is super strong. But for now, we'll just keep it as a movement skill. Up next, you have Drop Kick. This skill flows into Golden Vines. This skill is completely unprotected. However, in 1v1 as well as small scale isolation or even large scale isolation, where you have one person off on the side, it's probably one of your best re-CCs in your kit because of how fast it comes out. It's a KD DR shred. So the actual kick part right here, actually I can show you here. The actual kick part knocks down, and then the swipe gives you a -25 DR shred on the enemy that you hit with it. Very strong ability to just throw out a really quick ECC. Up next, we have Hammer Punch. Hammer Punch flows into Golden Trajectory. Hammer Punch itself is unprotected. Golden Trajectory is a forward guard. The reason you use this is because the actual punch part is a +20 melee AP for 15 seconds, so it's part of your pre-buff combo. And you do use this in your basic 1v1 combo or isolation combo. Typically, you would grab somebody, do Hammer Punch, flow into the actual Golden Trajectory part, and then you're gonna drop kick them and then do the swipe. So that way you have the DR shred, you re-KD'd them, and you have your AP buff. Very solid way to flow into everything. But typically in large scale, the only time we're using this is to pre-buff ourselves, as it's completely unprotected. The second part of your pre-buff here, Hammer in the Knee, WE, it's a forward guard, but it gives you 15% attack speed for 15 seconds. Both the buffs are 15 seconds long. Makes it very easy for you to keep those buffs up constantly. This skill, Hammer in the Knee, flows into Golden Blockade. I've seen Golden Blockade used a lot by scholars to get extra damage out and re-CC somebody. It is completely unprotected. Golden Blockade is. Obviously, Hammer in the Knee is a forward guard. This apparently does really good damage, as well as re-KDing people, so I guess if you have shy buffs, it is a applicable option. But I personally don't use it. pretty much ever, because I think we have so many options of protected damage. Why would I use something unprotected in a large scale scenario? Up next, we have One Small Step. This is a movement skill. It's probably the fastest, safest re-engage tool that you have. So in AOS, if your teammate CCs somebody, you're using this skill. If you see a Zerker leap on a group of people and you're kind of like nearby in Node War, you're using the skill. It's very direct. It has the ability to stop you from moving forward past the point of where the leap happens. So you're going to land on the person you intend to hit. Very, very strong. And it also gives you 20 DR. So when you're engaging into a group of people, you get that extra tankiness that you need to actually stay in there and fight while you're taking chip damage from people. Next, we have Gravity Field. Gravity Field flows into Golden Wave. This skill does a ton of damage. I don't know what they were smoking when they designed this skill. This thing does so much damage. If you guys saw in the RBF clip that in the beginning of this video, I killed like 3 people with this skill. And it has really good cancel flows after the fact for some of the other skills. I'll get into that later. But like this skill, if used properly, it's an FG. If used properly, will kill people. It will kill people. Very, very strong. Up next, we have Home Run. This is everybody's favorite move on Scholar. It's an absolutely fantastic kill secure skill. It has a ton of range. I think right here about is the maximum range for it. Yeah. So it's absolutely insane range. It does a ton of damage. They did nerf the damage, so it is a shell of what it used to be, but it still does a good amount of damage. Very, very strong. It also flows directly into our Magnus skill, which our Magnus skill, all of this is SA, by the way, and it has flashing bits of iframe. This, you'll see a lot of older Scholar like montages or guides where they'll go home run, teleport in, Magnus on the group of people that they just home runned. That does still work. It's still good to do that, but most times nowadays you want to actually separate your home run from your Magnus, as they're both good sources of damage in different situations, and blowing them at the same time does kind of front load your damage. Obviously, we have other skills that deal quite a bit of damage, but most of the time I like to keep them separate personally. That being said, the Magnus skill, we'll go ahead and take the second to explain the Magnus. The Magnus is probably your biggest alchemic circle in the kit. It has a wide radius and it does pretty good damage. You will still kill people with the Magnus. It does have an issue with hit acceleration and hit stun, where if you don't know what those are, hit acceleration is you getting hit by certain skills causes the animation to end quickly, which you will still be in midair sometimes, which will cause you to do the falling animation of the passive down here. I can't really show you, but there is like a fall animation that you do when you jump off of things. Let's see if we get it here. No, okay. You'll see it. It's nothing too crazy. That will get you killed sometimes. It also has a hit stun where it will lock you in the animation, or it's essentially a soft CC where until they stop throwing damage, you're going to be locked in the animation and unable to do anything until the skill ends. It's a very unfortunate thing. This wasn't an issue pre-iframe nerfs, because you would just skill be on the ground, everything would be good. But since they changed this skill to a SA while you're up in the air, pretty much as you're landing, you're an SA. yeah, it struggles with those issues now. Still a super solid skill. Biggest debuff skill that you have. You just got to be aware of the issues that it also has. Up next, we have Gravity Press. This is our Nightmare. Sork has a skill called Nightmare. It just puts you in a ball that you can move around. Starts out at an SA, so you need to throw it earlier rather than later. Use it as a get out of jail free card. I'll usually go into it, and then I will, as soon as I get out of it, I'll giant leap away. Or I'll spam like movement to get away from. Very solid way to get out of a bad situation. It has to be hotbars, so make sure that you hotbar it. Up next, we have Potential Energy. I kind of already talked about the skill, but in the add-ons part of the video, but it's essentially a pretty huge AoE that debuffs people with a slow. We also run DR and evasion down on this skill. It also does good damage, but typically we're throwing it at the beginning of the combo to debuff as many people that we jump on. Very solid skill. Up next, we have Hammer Throw. Potential Energy is SA, by the way. Completely protected. Hammer Throw. The skill is unprotected, but it has some nuance to it. It flows into this skill called Golden Skyfall. Actually, one of the hardest hitting skills in the kit. Whenever you flow into this, it's SA and it takes a couple times, does a ton of damage. The caveat being that the first part of the skill is unprotected, so you gotta know when to use it. This skill comes out pretty quickly if your BSR didn't shy buffed. I will throw it out randomly at times while I'm fighting. I'll typically reposition, throw it, and then go into the front flip, and I'll pick up a couple kills with it. Pretty solid skill. It also has another application where it changes the animation of your home run. So you'll do that, and then home run kind of turns into almost like a shotgun blast, where it's a circle rather than the big line that it normally has. I don't typically ever use this animation. I don't think it has a applicable reason in any form of content. Maybe in grinding. All it does is shorten the actual effect. Maybe it widens it a little bit. I don't know. Might be good for grinding. You never know. But this skill, this part's unprotected. Golden Skyfall, however, is super armor. So you can sit there and KS people. I secure a lot of kills with this skill. Very strong. Last but not least, for our main skill, we have Particle Acceleration, E-buff. One of the strongest E-buffs in the game. Holy crap. This thing is stacked. 30 AP, 80 accuracy, and 40 DR. Perfect for her kit. Absolutely perfect for her kit. No useless stat lines there. All for 30 seconds. Make sure you hotbar it. Self-explanatory. Use that thing off cooldown. Insane E-buff on this class. We'll go into the movement a little bit later. I want to go into the rest of the attack skills. Core Fusion. This is one of two of your main cancels in your kit. This skill is pretty good. It's also part of your pre-buff combo because it gives you 20 DR. It's SA. I apologize, I'm kind of stuffy. It's been very pollinated here. It is part of your pre-buff combo. It also puts an alchemic circle. Well, actually, let me explain this first. It has two different animations. You want to think of this skill like a C-swap for Awakening. If you don't understand what a C-swap is, C-swap on Awakening classes is the skill that gets you from either to the pre-awakening, or from the pre-awakening to the awakening, or from the awakening to the pre-awaken. So typically, if I have these hammers out, it will swap it to the sledgehammer. If I have the sledgehammer out, which you can't do it from the raw, but if I'm like C canceling my Shift Rmb, it'll do a different animation and bring my mallets out. Now this is important because if you're using your pre-awakened kit at all, and then you tap it, it gives you the alchemic circle buff. So this is why it's part of our pre-buff combo that we'll get into the tips and tricks, is you'll do your pre-buff, and now you have your damage hit on crits, and if you landed on a group of your allies, you have your damage hit on crits. Very, very strong. It also cancels most moves in the kit, with the exception of the moves that fly you into the air. And also, if you get too deep into the spin, you can't cancel out of it once you get past a certain part in the spin. I should actually turn this on so you guys can see a little bit better. So like, I think once you get here, yeah, see, I can't cancel out of it. That's the only skill that you can't cancel with that. So it's SA, it has a 4-second cooldown, it gives you a 20% DR buff, or plus 20 DR buff, and it also gives you your alchemic circle skill as long as you are alchemic circle passive, as long as you're in your main kit. Other than that, it's a good way to cancel certain skills, so that way you can flow into more damaging ones or get you out of unprotected skills quickly, so that way you don't get CC'd. Up next, we have Hammer Rush. Very solid movement skill. It has some cancels that we'll get into later. All it really is a movement skill that bridges a gap pretty quickly. Very fast. Up next, you have your grab. There is some nuance with this grab. People are gonna sit here and tell you that this grab is the most broken in the game. I'm gonna be real with you. This grab is definitely better than some in the game, but not as good as short sword grabs. Short sword grabs don't have much range, sure, but the caveat being there's desync in this game. So if you have a target standing still, yeah, on paper, best grab in the game. If you have somebody moving and desyncing around and jumping around or throwing CC skills, this skill has one of the longest startups to get to the actual grab animation. So you have to move into the space and try and grab them. Where the desync becomes applicable for this, if let's say I'm fighting somebody and I try to barrel stuff them with the grab, which you can do, by the way, on stationary targets, you absolutely can barrel stuff them. There's an issue with the desync where you'll just end up sliding straight past the person and your grab will leave you unprotected and get you killed. I can probably try to do it on this tree just to show you. So you see how I slid past? This happens a lot in AOS. This gets me killed a lot in AOS. And that may be like a skill issue thing on my part where I need to be throwing my grabs smarter or something like that. It also has like a long startup animation window. So during that whole travel phase of the grab, you can get CC'd out of it. So you need to be careful when using the grab. Very strong grab overall, but keep that in mind when using it. It's better to barrel stuff it. You just need to be careful for desync. You always have to keep that in mind in this game. LVA skills for grinding. Not really going to go too in depth on it. Hotkey it if you're grinding LVA. Hammer Smash. My personal favorite skill in the kit. I love how it looks. I love what it provides. It's a KD. It's a minus, I believe, 25 DR shred. Yeah, for 10 seconds. And then we run add-ons on it to absolutely maximize our down attack damage. So overall, this skill is giving me minus 45 DR and plus 5% down attack damage. And it's re-KDing people. Very, very strong skill if used properly. That being said, it does have an animation lock on the second part of the skill. So you need to make sure that you're canceling out of it. We'll get into that in a little bit later. But very, very strong way to VCC people. Infinite Power. This skill has some nuance to if you're not good at reading. It's a SA skill that does quite a bit of damage. It has a charge bar at the bottom that you'll I'll throw it again and you'll see it should be like right around here. Oh, it's right below my my HP pot. So it does take a couple seconds to get into it for the full damage, but there are ways to make it come out faster. We'll get into that in the cancels part, but you can get the full charge bar damage immediately whenever you throw certain skills beforehand. Very strong SA skill, does a lot, pretty good damage. They buffed it recently. Also great for in neutral trying to stay protected. Hammer spin. They buffed the crap out of this skill. It does a ton of damage. We typically use the 10% BSR, which is why a lot of scholars have moved add-ons off of the spin, because you don't get add-ons on the 10%. It heals you for like 1600 HP per person that you're hitting with all 8 of the hits. So you can throw it in a group of people that you have CC'd and you'll just stay alive no matter who's hitting you. It's SA, heals you, does good damage. Yeah, what more could you want? Very, very strong. And it's also only a 10% BSR. Like, this skill is stacked. I get so many kills with this skill. It's unreal. Moving into One Giant Leap. One Giant Leap is your main engage skill. It's SA iframe. Once you let everybody that you land on, they get hit by that alchemic circle. Very, very strong skill. Use it as your main engage. We run add-ons on it because the add-ons also apply to Golden Thunder, which is your main CC in the kit. I know Golden Thunder says that it's a flow off of One Giant Leap. This is not the case. You can throw Golden Thunder after any skill in the kit by just hitting spacebar. Golden Thunder is also one of your main cancels, and typically the way that you're getting out of being grabbed by people that are aggressing you, you can, as long as you're throwing a skill, you can just cancel out of it with spacebar. Very, very strong iframe into SA. It also ADs people. It heals you per hit, but the hit application really doesn't matter very much. Let me see. Am I forgetting anything on this? Nope, that's pretty much it. Use the 10% or the 25% BSR leap. It's pretty strong. In testing, whenever I was sitting in this corner right here, in that corner right there, and I did the leap, the non-BSR version leaped me about here. The BSR version leaped me about here. So it's about like 2 body lengths, which isn't that crazy, but sometimes it's necessary to get you to where you want to be. It's also great for disengaging 25% because it just gives you that extra distance. Also gives you an AP buff, 10 AP buff whenever you do the 25%. So, pretty solid skill. Hammerfall. This skill it does a lot of damage. And it's also our evasion shred in the kit. It's only FG, so you gotta be using it in the correct situations whenever you're in large scale. But used in the right application, it will kill people, absolutely. It's also part of your main combo whenever you're 1v1ing people, because you want the DR shred and the evasion shred on them to do as much damage as possible. Very solid skill, does a lot of damage, has a big AoE. Just use it wisely so you don't get CC'd out of it. We already went over all of these skills. So now we can move into the movement part. So up first, we have our gravity anchor with our attraction. This is our Megu clone anchor. I don't really know how else to explain it to people. So when you press Q, right, it puts this anchor down. This anchor persists for, I believe, about 8 seconds. And during that whole time that it's on the ground, at any point, you can teleport to it. Now, there are some unfortunate things about this gravity anchor. Typically, gravity anchor does not allow you to travel through walls. That being said, sometimes BDO thinks that there are walls on the ground. I'll try to throw it. I'll try to teleport through this wall. It'll probably let me because it is buggy as hell. Yeah, see. Okay. It's very hard. When you've played Scholar for long enough, you'll know what I'm talking about whenever we talk about QQ bug. You will just like, I'll throw it, and then I'll teleport, and this animation will not move me from the original spot. I will just be right here. I will be completely unprotected without being able to ungap myself. Typically at that point, I'm throwing spacebar as fast as I can to hopefully try and not die. But you have to keep that in mind when using QQ. Most of the time, QQ is used as a form of getting into the Magnus skill, as it allows you to get the, by the way, forgot to mention, Gravity Anchor gives you 15% attack speed when you use it. So off of Magnus, you can do QLMB, and now you have your 15% attack speed, and it leaves an anchor on the ground for you to try and hopefully use properly. But it is it's definitely still a skill that we want to throw. Very, very solid. It allows you to rebuff yourself with attack speed while you're fighting people. So I highly recommend mastering the use of Gravity Anchor, even though it is buggy. I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of the fact that this could happen. So you're like, what the hell, man? Why is it doing this? You know, it's a very common bug that we've dealt with since the inception of the class. Attraction. This is actually the second part of the skill that I was talking about, where you press the Q again and it teleports you. It also reduces the cooldown of the Q by 7 seconds to a minimum of, I don't want to fight you on this. To a minimum of, minimum of 2 seconds. So you throw it, you press it again, your cooldown is now only 2 seconds long, you can throw it again. Pretty basic stuff. Yeah. Also, when you teleport to people, it knocks back. So you can teleport through people and it'll knock them back. Repulsion. This skill is super strong. It's just a iframe SA. It does have its issues though, and I'll explain the other movement skill really quickly. We'll get into that in just a second. Gravity Blink, it's your side dash. You only have one side forward or side dash, so you got W shift, A shift, and D shift. That's a shared cooldown. You have a separate cooldown, which is S shift, and that one is reversal. And then you have a second backdash, which I've keybound for the benefit of the video. I don't typically have it keybound, called Gravity Storm. This teleports you backwards laterally and can be used independently of reversal, even though it's a flow. So if you backdash while this is on cooldown, you can like move around and then backdash again and you get the flow skill. Now, something very, very important for you on either one of the diagonal skills that teleport you like this, or your Magnus skill, it is a telegraphed grab for your enemy. So anytime that you are throwing a diagonal movement skill or your Magnus, which it's on cooldown, but you guys get the idea. Anytime that you're throwing either one of any of those three, it is a free grab for a player that knows what they're doing. You need to be careful about using these. Typically you never ever want to do this on top of a clump of people, because you will get grabbed if the player is good. That being said, that's pretty much it for movement. Up next we have our passive. This is pretty much accuracy DR. She has 15 AP, and then she has no fall damage on at all. You can any skill that you're throwing when you jump off a cliff will not apply fall damage to you. And then you also have an animation when you don't throw a skill where you just kind of like slow float down. That is a blessing and a curse, because sometimes you will just end your skill in midair over a ball of people, and then you'll do that fall animation unprotected and you will just die. Her passives are absolutely stacked. It's all AP accuracy DR. Her debuff is stacked, AP accuracy DR. Very solid stuff. Super, super strong stuff. And then all this other stuff is kind of self-explanatory. We already went over these skills. Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush is a movement skill. FG, very solid. The second part that this flows into is Golden Path. Golden Path you can use independently. This is a heal on hit SA. Love SA trading with this. This skill is FG at the end of it. It's unprotected. So use it only in certain situations to close gaps whenever you're not going to get hit. Last one, I already explained this. This is a cleanse. Very strong. I also forgot to mention for the rest of the movement. Gravity Anchor is SA. Teleport is iframe. The end is a gap. Backdash, side dash are chainable iframes, and then it turns into SA at the end. Forward is SA, iframe, SA. Back is SA, iframe, SA. Pretty simple stuff. This kit has completely protected movement combos in SA and iframe. It has completely protected damage combos in SA, iframe. Really, the only gaps in the entire kit is after you QQ. Only gap in the kit. And then if you consider FG's gaps, then you're from a different time from whenever I played, because FG's back in my day weren't gaps. But I digress. That's gonna be it for the full skill breakdown. We're gonna now move into tips and tricks, movement combos, all that stuff. So we're gonna talk about cancels next. I think it makes more sense to talk about cancels before movement because some of the movement is cancel based. Starting out first with my favorite cancel in the kit is the C cancel for your Shift Rmb Hammer Smash. So Hammer Smash in and of itself, if we watch it here in this, it has a pretty long animation. It's also FG, right? That second slam we can cancel with C. So we want to try to mitigate our time to be CC'd in FG. So what we'll do is we'll do Shift Rmb, and as soon as that swipe ends, we'll tap C. That will put us in a position to either BSR spin or reposition and throw out a different skill like Home Run, maybe Magnus. Kind of depends on whatever you want to do. This is how you make Hammer Smash the strongest spawn in the game, is with this C cancel. Allows you to quickly get out of FG, which leaves you susceptible to back attacks from knowledgeable players. That being said, if your C's on cooldown, that's unfortunate. You also have the option to spacebar. And a little nuanced thing with spacebar is that if you spacebar out of Shift Rmb fast enough, you actually don't get the re-KD off of the spacebar, and it just does damage. Which is a very solid way for you to get in free extra damage from the spacebar and not re-CC somebody. That's pretty nuanced situation though. You got to be careful when using that. You do kind of want to spread out your CC sometimes, but it has its applications. Up next, we're gonna go into Hammer Rush. Hammer Rush has a very particular flow. It's basically this skill repulsion. Kind of teleports you diagonally forward. It does cost quite a bit of stamina if you watched. It's like 7, you know. It's not free, but it's not a bunch. That being said, if you just tap Rmb after you Gravity Rush, it'll do a shorter animation that's immediately iframe, and it costs no stamina. Completely free. Definitely solid. It has its uses. Whenever we get into the movement part, I'll go over stamina free movement combos. I try to make it a little bit more freeform with my movement, but we'll get into the whole movement combo part of the video later. Your next cancel is going to be your infinite power cancels. Now, when I was explaining the skill earlier, I told you guys it has a charge bar right down there next to my HP pots. There is a way to make that charge bar non-existent. Couple, actually. I have two main ways that I use it, typically, but I think that there are about 4 applications for it. Infinite Power insta-cancels the charge after Golden Blockade, Golden Pillar, Golden Wave, or Golden Vines. The other, and it's not listed here, but it does, is after you use Golden Path, it immediately allows you to throw out a fully charged Infinite Power. Now, that being said, the other skills I just listed, Golden Pillar is your RMB. So typically throwing the fully charged Infinite Power after your RMB is for grinding. Don't typically ever use this one. The next one that you have is Golden Blockade, which is a skill that you use after Hammer in the Knee. If you remember earlier, I was talking about there are scholars that do Hammer in the Knee flow to reach KD. Well, this allows you to mitigate the gap and do a lot of damage to the person that you just CC'd. So it's applicable there. I don't personally use it, but definitely beneficial. Up next, the next way to do it is after Golden Wave. Golden Wave is your gravity field skill. I think this is typically how I use it the most. Maybe it might be after the Rebaam is how I use it the most. They're pretty even because it's both really strong. Gravity field does a ton of damage, and once you get to the swipe, you can just hold Shift Rmb and it immediately comes out fully charged. Just a ton of damage that you're putting down in a small area, and then transferring into the SA keeps you protected very quickly. It allows you to get into a very solid SA protection very fast. One of the best applications for the Shift Rmb cancel. The last way, like I said, I use it pretty much 3 ways. It's good to use after dropkick because it does the fully charged animation. Now, that being said, if I'm typically dropkicking somebody, dropkick is protected. If I feel comfortable dropkicking somebody, I'm gonna Shift F them. It's better to do the Shift F because it's gonna EVA shred and it does the same amount of damage as the fully charged Shift Rmb. They're both extremely high damage skills, but with the Shift F, I'm evasion debuffing them. Like I'm cutting their evasion by 24. Very solid way to, you know, debuff somebody. I very rarely am using Shift Rmb after this. I think whenever I get like a cheeky CC and I need to get into an SA so people don't take advantage of the fact that I just threw an unprotected move, yeah, I'm gonna Shift Rmb, right? So it has its applications, but I typically don't ever throw dropkick if I feel like I can be CC'd. Now, probably the most brain dead way to use this skill, because it's just so easy and like stupidly strong, is right after you Shift Z. You can just throw Shift Rmb and it fully charges it. If you saw, I was holding it and it just came out immediately. It does so much damage this way. Like I'll be on a group of people, I'll do my Shift LMB, C cancel, I'll BSR spin, and then boom, Shift Z, Shift RMB. Tons of damage I'm putting on that group of people that are that's typically whenever I have people on the floor CC'd, I am throwing that combo because that's like crazy amount of damage output. Shift C's healing you, Shift Z's healing you. And then Shift RMB is just a very quick, like high damage skill. Super strong. For our last cancel, this one isn't really necessarily a cancel that used very often, but it has its applications. Potential Energy, your SE ability. If you watch, it has lingering SA. The damage doesn't come out immediately. It kind of takes a little bit, right? Well, a lot of the time, we're going to want to either C cancel or spacebar cancel it to get out a little bit more DPS. The damage on the skill is pretty front loaded in the first part of the skill. I guess it's actually even between both hits, but it's still faster for you to press spacebar immediately afterwards. Like that, you're gonna get more damage that way, and also CC people. There's a couple times where I'll let it linger, but you have to be careful because it is a window to get grabbed. That's pretty much it for the cancels. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the movement part of the video. All right, let's talk about movement. Scholar is one of the few classes in the game that is able to move completely SA iframe protected. She does have infinite stamina combos. I don't use those, so I'm not going to put those in this video. Plenty of information out there for you to get that. I try to keep it a little bit more freeform whenever I'm moving with her. For me to help myself remember the cooldowns, I typically am throwing all of the same button combination skills together. So all the C skills, all the W skills, then like any of the bigger leaps I'm doing separately. So when you're moving on her, you can do like Shift Q to start, C, W, C, LMB with the cancel. Then you can do WRMB, WF. Then you should be able to just start right back over. C, WC, LMB, WRMB, WF, Shift Q. And that one giant leap has like a slight cooldown, so like maybe throw in a side dash or a back dash, you know. Her combos are pretty freeform on movement. Just throw your protected stuff. One tip that I'm gonna give you guys is WRMB. This is one of your strongest skills for movement because it is a free movement skill in the sense that its cost is fully refunded. It has the secondary flow, Golden Thorns. The amount of stamina that you spend from the initial part of the skill is fully refunded by the time that the SA ends for Golden Thorns. So you should always throw the flow skill because it's free at that point. Stamina's full. Also, in the kit, you do have free movement. What I mean by that is there are certain skills in the kit that cost 0 stamina for you to throw. Those being C, WC, and LMB. That being paired with WRMB, being fully refunded, allows you to move without, like, even if you're zeroed out on stamina, it'll still allow you to move. Very strong combination. The other parts of the kit, Shift Q does cost quite a bit. Shift X does cost quite a bit. WC costs nothing. C costs nothing. The LMB after WC costs nothing. WRMB technically costs nothing because you get it refunded. So her movement's insanely strong. I forgot part of the like original combo, right? Shift X. So I mean, you can throw Shift X, you know? You do Shift Q. When you land, C, WC, LMB, WRMB, flow, WF, Shift X, Shift Q, C, WC, LMB, WRMB, flow, WF, Shift X, Shift Q. And look, I did that on rotation, and I was only missing 30 stamina. You know, I did 2 full rotations. And I'll go do a lap real quick. Let's see how much it costs me. Hopefully nobody comes after me. WC, LMB, WRMB, WF, Shift X, Shift Q, C, WC, LMB, WRMB, WF, Shift X, Shift Q, C, WC, RMB, WRMB, WF, Shift X, Shift Q, C, WC, WRMB, WF, Shift X, Shift Q. You know, like, I'm pretty much fully protected, minus the Shift X part of the combo, right? And like, if you don't want to throw Shift X, you do side dash, you do your back dash instead, you know. If you want to stay fully protected, you have options. But I personally don't think the combos where people are like, oh, this is a infinite stamina combo, not necessary on this class at all. She has some of the freest movement in the kit. You do not need to throw in QQ. You don't need to throw in WE to like retain some of your stamina. You just watch me do a lap and 40% of my stamina was gone. I did like 4 skill rotations, you know, like, and whether you like it or not, like Shift X, even though it is FG and unprotected, you should be throwing it because it's so fast. It's one of the fastest gap closes in the kit. Don't throw it into a ball of people, but like, God, man, like, her movement is so free. Keep in mind, like, your low stamina, do your C, WC, LMB, WRMB, right? It costs basically nothing. Very, very strong movement on this class. It is very freeform, so get used to it, right? That combo that I gave you, it'll get you started. Me, I don't ever follow a combo. I'm just throwing what I have off cooldown. All right, tips and tricks. We're gonna start out with probably the most useful information that you're gonna have, your pre-buff. You have one of the fastest pre-buff. It's also the most consistent because it's all 15 seconds minus the alchemic circle buff. And all it's going to be is E, W, E, C. Sorry, your DR is 10 seconds. This combo is going to give you 20 attack, 15% attack speed, 20 DR, and 30 fixed damage on critical hits. Super strong skill for you to just kind of, right before you engage, if you ever watch my VODs, I'm literally just throwing this right before I engage every single time because it comes out so quick. The odds that you get CC'd, very low. Very low if you're throwing it in the right situation. That being said, while you're fighting, try to avoid it. I'll typically do like my full engage, I'll fight, I'll gravity press out, and then once I land on the gravity press, I will re-ascertain everything around me. I'll typically throw my golden boon to undebuff myself. I'll throw my blessing of Acidol to heal myself. And then from there, I'm pre-buffing and typically re-engaging. While you're fighting, you should always be doing your QQ to apply your attack speed buff. You don't really have a way to reapply your attack buff, unfortunately. That's protected. But throwing your Q out will just give you your 15% attack speed for 15 seconds. Now, there is a gap after it, so either you're just going to want to throw out the Q and then move, or you're going to want to throw Q Magnus into a group of people. Either way, you're getting the attack speed buff, super beneficial for reapplying your attack speed buff while you're fighting with people. Scholar's very tanky. When you are getting CC'd, try to hold your V as long as possible. I run sturdy whale tendon pots pretty much in every form of content that I do because I stand up all the time on this class, especially while I'm E-buffed. While you're E-buffed and you have all of your buffs up, EWEC, your DR, then you leap into a group of people and hit somebody with your skill. That's another 20 DR right there. And then while you're E-buffed, that's another 40 DR. So you have 80 DR over the average player. Extremely, extremely tanky class. When you stand up, I highly recommend you do your small backdash into your side dash. So that way you maximize your iframe time and then backdash again with your lateral gravity storm. So it should look like this, right? Backdash, side dash, backdash. You're gonna maximize your iframe time to prevent yourself from taking more damage, which will allow you to get out. Once you land off of the repulsion, you can either immediately press 3 and anchor out, or you can giant leap away. Your choice, right? Both are applicable. If nobody's pressuring you, which if you're low HP, you're typically getting pressured. If nobody's pressuring you, just throw your heal belt. The animation's fast. Boom, you're healed. Full HP, right? Next thing I want to talk about is the hammer throw ability, SF. This skill, the CC exists. Where is it at? Here it is. The CC exists where the hammers land. So you can absolutely aim to the side of somebody and hit behind FG by throwing it behind them. Now, how do I re-CC them off the stiff? It's actually very easy. Typically with SF, you're going to want to flow into the skill afterwards, Golden Skyfall, the skill right here. The timing lines up perfectly. You SF, flow in, and then immediately spacebar, and boom, you've KD'd the person and they don't have time to react. I didn't even have a speed buff there. I got one from the spacebar, but like, this allows you to immediately re-CC somebody. It's a very, very strong tool for dealing with people that are FG abusing or just S blocking at you. Just throw this out, immediately jump into them, and then hit spacebar. They're on the floor. Have your way with them on the floor. Try to make sure that you are keeping up your 40 DR at all times. You obviously have your on skill usage DR from WF. You also have another one from C. With my add-ons, want to hit somebody with either Shift Q or spacebar. There are other people that run add-ons on WF. Depends on your playstyle, your preference, right? Keep your DR up at all times. It makes you a stat stick. When you're in neutral and you're trying to stay protected when you're ball fighting, or not when you're ball fighting, when you're about to ball fight, and there's always the situation where you can get dove by a lawn or just dove by a rat, right? You need to keep yourself protected. Now, there's a 3 skill chain that you want to do, and the first one that you're going to do is you're going to hold Shift Rmb. The reason that you do this is because you see how it's ticking the stamina down there? I'm SA this whole animation, and by the time the SA runs out, my stamina bar is full again. So I just get to sit in SA for solid 6 seconds, right? Maybe 8 seconds. I think this cooldown's, oh no, it's 6 seconds. Yeah. So you sit in SA for about 8 seconds there. Next, you can do SE. This has a long linger as well. It's a 8 or 10 second cooldown. And then last but not least, you spin. Also a 10 second cooldown. So when you flow all 3 of these together, you're just permanently SA. Now, I know some people are going to whine because they don't want to use their skills that they're going to be damaging people with. I promise you the cooldowns are so short. There's many situations where I have what I need off cooldown by the time that I'm fighting people, right? If a single rat's diving you, yeah, that sucks, right? But you're not really going to need the SE neutral debuff. You're not really, I mean, you may need the spin to try and finish the person, which is why you're starting with the Shift Rmb first, because it's gonna tick for a solid 6 seconds before you need to go into the next skill, right? And I mean, like, these skills are off cooldown every 10 seconds. It's really not too big of a deal. So that's how you stay protected and neutral in the class. I highly recommend as well keeping your movements separate from each other. What I mean by that is you have two ground dashes and 2 diagonal dashes. As I explained earlier, the diagonal dashes are free grabs for people that know what they're doing. But when you're ball fighting and you're trying to 1vx in a group of people, it's imperative that you use these separately. So I'm gonna like side dash, throw skill, speed cancel, back dash, hammer throw, diagonal back dash, Magnus in, right? Side dash is back off cooldown. Do that. Throw a hammer down, right? Throw your SA skill. Forward dash through the group of people. C, spin, right? You want to try to keep yourself unprotected or unpredictable and protected the whole time that you're 1vxing. Keep yourself mobile. You never want to sit still, because the only way to CC a scholar is to grab them. A good scholar is never unprotected except for FG. And during that whole time that I just showed you guys, I think my FG times were Shift Rmb and maybe like Rmb, which you don't even have to throw if you don't want to. Like, you could absolutely still do that same thing and go like side dash, SE, right? Forward dash through, C, spin. Side dash is back off cooldown. Go back, hammer throw in, forward dash, space bar, right? Back dash, Q Magnus. All this is extremely, extremely vital. Keep your base iframe movement separate from each other, so that way you can abuse the cooldowns. Because if you're double backdashing like this, or you're side dash LMBing, all my movement's now on cooldown, right? Like, there's a small window there, 1 second, but like all of it's on cooldown. You don't want to do that. You're gonna trip yourself up. My last tip for you guys, tip trick, is actually about home run Magnus. Now, typically you're going to want to keep these skills separated. Like I said, they're 2 independent sources of damage. You don't want to put them on cooldown at the same time, because I believe they have like a 12 or 13 second cooldown independently of each other. 13 seconds. Home run is also 13 seconds. That being said, there are times where you're going to want to throw both of them at once. It's very important that you do this. There is an issue with the home run teleport. The hitbox makes you travel above the ground. So anybody that you have on the floor with a spacebar, you typically will teleport through because of desync, or you're not registering them in the right spot, whatever the case may be, right? Typically it happens whenever you hit a spacebar and you're like on top of the person. You'll go like this, and look, I just teleported through that person, right? Like, I can even show you guys on the training dummies. It's not supposed to work like this, but it does. Now, there's actually a tech for us to kind of work around that. Let's say I engage on this guy, right? And I jump in, I CC him. Instead of me going home run and just flowing with the LMB, what we're gonna do, actually, I'm gonna let him stand back up. What we're gonna do actually is tap Q LMB. We're gonna throw the anchor out, our gravity anchor, and then Magnus flow. Because the hitbox off the gravity anchor Magnus flow is better than the home run Magnus flow. Entirely different, right? So we're gonna do this, spacebar in, while he's on the ground, Q. And you see how I got caught on him like that? You always want to hold QLMB. Very easy input, you know, not too difficult. It also, the other cool thing about it is if I'm CCing this guy, right? The anchor will still go through them at the point where the Magnus was going to land. So now you have an out. So you spacebar, SLME, QLMB. My anchor's over there. I can teleport to my anchor. super strong way to make sure that you're gonna hit people with your Magnus, because otherwise you're just gonna end up teleporting straight through them, and then you're gonna miss all your Magnus damage, and you're gonna be really sad. I don't want to see you sad. So don't be like me. Don't teleport through your target. Make sure that you're doing your QLMB. Moving into the combo part of the video now. I'm gonna give you guys a simple 1v1 combo. We're gonna go ahead and put the actual combo itself in the description of the video, so that way you guys can copy paste it, save it for later. That being said, moving into the combo, it is semi-unprotected. This is a 1v1 combo. We'll go over a large scale combo in just a minute. You're gonna start out with E, or like your grab, or your spacebar KD. Either or, depending on what kind of CC you land. You can also fill Shift Rmb here if you're running that core and you land a cheeky CC with it. What you're gonna do is grab them, hold your E key, hold your F key, hit Shift F, home run, potential energy, spacebar. Now it looked a little slow. I did accidentally delay my SE input. It's very important that whenever you do your home run SE, as soon as your SE, like the first tick of SE comes out like that, you're hitting spacebar. You want to hit spacebar immediately. The spacebar does not typically hit. The reason we throw the spacebar is because on targets that you CC with a down smash, you actually fully reset the combo that way. So I'll show you guys again. Grab. We're gonna hold E for our AP buff, F for our down smash and DR shred, Shift F for our accuracy shred, home run, SE, spacebar. That person's re-KD'd as they were standing up. I didn't land the second down smash on the home run, but that combo works pretty well. It covers all your bases for buffs. It does really good damage. Definitely a solid combo. Moving on to our protected combo. I typically freeball most of my stuff because I understand what needs to happen with what skills to throw to debuff somebody and then what skills to throw damage. I know that doesn't work for everybody, so we'll just go ahead and talk about a standard. It's a fully protected combo, so that way we can have agency in ball fighting. What you're gonna do for this combo is grab, do your full tick of SC, spacebar, B cancel, BSR spin. As they're standing, you're gonna home run them. This is going to be a really good protected combo. You can also Magnus after if you want to try and chase them as they stand up. Really up to you at that point. But this is going to be one of your highest damage applications. It's going to keep you fully protected. There are better options with FG skills, but I want to keep it simple for the players that are new to the class and need a fully SA combo. There's absolutely like situations where you can do like grab this, do that. Yeah, just like whatever, right? And then like even you don't even need to necessarily VCC with spacebar. You can grab, SE, Shift C, cancel, spin, and then do your gravity. Yeah, like there's so many different combos you can do that include FG that are going to do more damage, but keeping you protected is step one. You can learn how to do the FG stuff later. All right, with this video coming to a close, we're going to talk about some side notes, some large scale stuff. I mentioned earlier on in the video that we do have two major playstyles that we like to fill. I'll kind of put up some example clips here to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about, the two different playstyles. Typically, the first playstyle that you're going to fall into, because it's easier, is your engager role. You're jumping in with your Zerkers, you know, picking up kills. You have big AoEs, you do a lot of damage, you debuff people. You also buff your allies with your massive AoE skills, so it's absolutely viable for you to like QQ Magnus into a clump of people that a Zerker has CC'd, debuff all your enemies, buff your allies, and do big amounts of damage. right? That playstyle gets you killed quite a bit. It is advisable for you to play like that. I think that is a very effective way to play Scholar. It is not the most effective way to play Scholar. When you are playing like that, it is beneficial for you to engage from an angle. You do not really want to be taking damage as you engage. You want to let other people take the brunt of the damage for you. You want to kind of like engage from ball adjacent, almost off to the side. I know some of the clips here that I'm showing you, I'm going straight in. I mean, obviously there are times when you can, if you're catching groups of people unaware, but you typically want to try and avoid it as much as possible, because the less damage that you take on the engage is more damage that you have to take while you're actually fighting. And most of the time, Scholars die to chip damage, not to getting CC'd. So keep that in mind as you're fighting. Just keep yourself fully SA'd. You have full SA rotations for engaging clumps of people. Typically, you're just kind of wanting to jump into a clump of people with your giant leap, hit your spacebar to try and CC people. Home run Magnus, you know. Home run Magnus gets you killed a lot. You typically want to try and reposition yourself with a side dash and then spin on a group of people now. It's a lot safer that way nowadays, because there's so much hit stun on Home Run Magnus. So keep that in mind whenever you're playing Engage or Scholar. Talking about now the Disruptor Scholar playstyle, definitely the more effective of the two. Also the, like I said in the intro, exponentially more difficult playstyle. I do not recommend that you play like this unless you really know what you're doing in Node War. There are absolutely insane Scholars, Myler, Swidex, to name a few. They do phenomenal with this playstyle. They kind of sit towards it's very interesting. They sit towards the back of the enemy ball and engage as the enemy ball fights with your ball, or they're with their ball getting shy buffs and waiting till the last second to use giant leap and leaping over the enemy ball into their backline. The whole point of it is with your AoEs and your space denial that Disruptor Scholar has, you are essentially denying the space for their range to back up and putting down so much damage in their backline and CCs and debuffs that their range just die. The Scholar does do quite a bit of damage. She's pretty solid on her own in the backline. As we're figuring out new tech, we're adjusting to the nerfs that she has. She still has viable options for being in the enemy backline and doing quite a bit of damage. She does struggle a little bit in the damage department sometimes, but you do have situations where you are extremely effective at killing range, killing these squishy classes, and then just like leaving, you know, like there's many times where I'll just be in a backline and I'll see a ranger and I'll CC them and I'll try to kill them, and if I get the kill, I get the kill. If I don't, giant leap away, use your fully SAI frame protected movement combo and just kite. Like if you pull like 4 people to chase you, you're doing your job. You're pulling 4 people away from the ball fight, effectively making the enemy ball weaker. Same logic as a Sork, but you have more agency on Scholar because you have better movement, right? It's just a very difficult play style. Whenever you play like this, you almost have to have shy buffs. You have to keep your buffs up because she is a stat stick character, so she needs to have every advantage possible for the fight. You want to get your shy buffs. You need to get your shy buffs, have your pre-buffs active, and then Also, be behind the enemy ball within the 60 seconds that your try buffs run out, right? Try to make sure that you maintain every advantage in that situation. Obviously, like, leaping over the ball works a lot, not all the time. You just kind of have to play it by ear, which is why I highly recommend that you wait until you're more experienced on Scholar to even attempt this playstyle, because you have to have your entire kit in tune, know your CD timings, know your pre-buff timings, so that way you don't have to worry about any of that. What you're worrying about is positioning yourself properly to capitalize off the ball distracting the enemy ball and getting into the backline and denying that space in the backline for them to regroup, rebuff themselves, heal themselves. That is your job as a disruptor scholar, preventing your enemy from regrouping so that way they can re-push your ball. And she is phenomenal at that. Her passive is quite literally tuned to do so. True damage on criticals, you crit 98% of the time with the add-ons and the build that I showed you guys. On top of that, the minus 20 heal recovery, 20% heal recovery, she's literally tuned to play like this. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for my 2026 post-nerf scholar guide. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or anything like that, my DMs are open on Discord. Please don't abuse that. I don't mind helping new scholars at all. Just hit me up if you guys have any questions. But for now, that's gonna be it. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, night, whatever you got going on. Peace.